Jay Leno has just suffered very serious burns. Kind of a hard segue, but it relates very broadly to what we're talking about here. Jay Leno, as a lot of people know, loves cars. He loves working on his own cars. He was working on one of his cars, and he got gasoline sprayed onto his face, and then there was a spark, and his face caught on fire. I mean, it sounds absolutely awful. He was rushed to the hospital. He could have died. Easily could have died. Dr. Peter Grossman, who's a board-certified plastic surgeon in LA, told reporters that Leno suffered, quote, significant burns to his face and hands and required a surgical excision and grafting procedure. Leno then told TMZ that his friend Dave, who was in the garage with him at the time, was able to smother the flames. Otherwise, it easily could have killed him. And then the doctor said that, now this is just like a couple of days later, that Leno was in good spirits and was even helping with the other patients and giving children cookies. Said, quote, "We're very happy to have him as part of our team." So this is a guy who just gets his face and hands burnt off. And a couple of days later, he's out cracking jokes, having a fun time in the hospital, giving kids cookies. A lot of people are asking, how can he do this? People probably aren't that surprised, because when you think of Jay Leno, you just think of this very buoyant guy, just like, he's always just kind of happy. He's not one of these angry comedians. Just, right? He's very funny and delightful. A great lesson here is on how good it is to cultivate buoyancy. Okay? How good it is to not only be resilient in the sense that you're really tough and you can withstand troubles, but to be buoyant, that when circumstances get you down and try to smother you, drown you in the water, you just bloop, pop right back up. Buoyancy is really, really important. And people very often just have the opposite. They'll sink to the bottom even if they're taking a nice swim in the Caribbean Ocean. Even if they're in broadly happy circumstances, they'll still find some terrible thing, some negative discomfort to obsess about. You don't want to do that. People have this fantasy, which is, things are tough right now, but once I get past this, then I'll be happy. It's a tough week at work, but once I get past this week at work, then I'll be happy. I'm having a hard time, with my family, but once this one thing changes, 6 months from now, then I'll be happy. The house needs work. Oh, it's so annoying. I got a leak in my ceiling. Once we fix that leak, though, then I'll be happy. And the people who think that way are never happy. That's the secret, because there's always going to be some other thing. And there's always going to be some circumstance that is imperfect because we live in a fallen world. So it is, I think, your duty, but it's certainly greatly to your benefit to cultivate that kind of buoyancy now. Circumstances are sort of morally neutral. Okay, suffering is not an immoral thing. So you can respond to suffering in a good, moral, edifying, sanctifying way, or you can respond to it in a degrading and disedifying way. I hate that word because it's a silly word, but you can in a destructive way, in a way that is really not going to be good for you. Okay, suffering is just part of the world, and so you'll notice the people who can have their face burnt off and still be happy and buoyant and able to get by the next day. They're the people who don't sweat the small stuff either. It's not a fact of circumstance. It's a fact of their own character, and I think it's on all of us to cultivate that. Sometimes people will say, you see this in politics, they'll say, we just need to do X, Y, and Z, and then we'll finally achieve a good country. That's what we need to achieve, a good country. A country is not a thing to achieve. A country is a place to inhabit. Okay, it's not, we're going to get there. This is how the progressives talk. We're going to get there. We're not there yet, but we're going to get there where we achieve this good country. We're already there. We're in the country, okay? We are here, and every single moment of the day, we have the option to pursue good and avoid evil, or to pursue evil and avoid good. In all of our little decisions, that's how you have a good country, okay? Is you just do the right thing consistently, and you cultivate that habit, because virtue is a habit, and then you have a good country. It's not some distant thing. 6 months from now, then we're going to have a good country. You can do it right now. Right now, head on over to kamikoto.com/Knowles. Using techniques that have been honed and perfected by generations of bladesmiths. Kamikoto knives are crafted only of high-quality Japanese steel. Each Kamikoto knife goes through a rigorous 19-step process that takes several years from start to finish. With more than 100 years of experience between them, Kamikoto's expert bladesmiths shape raw Japanese steel into hardy blades, polishing and sharpening them to an excruciatingly fine single bevel edge. This sharp edge is why Kamikoto knives can cut through meat and fish like butter, and why they are used by Michelin-rated chefs around the world. Each knife is individually inspected and comes with a lifetime guarantee. Plus, Kamikoto knives come in a beautiful, heavy-duty ash wood box for safe storage. This stunning presentation makes Kamikoto a great gift during this Christmas season. Kamikoto is now running a Black Friday sale and offering my viewers an additional $50 off any purchase with discount code Knowles. Go to kamikoto.com/Knowles and get your knives set and help support this channel. Mitch McConnell will be reelected Republican minority leader in the Senate. That is going to happen. There was a challenge from Rick Scott. Rick Scott, a more conservative senator from Florida. He challenged McConnell. They held a vote. It was a secret ballot because none of the senators want to get on Cocaine Mitch's bad side, because he's just going to turn out like Tony Montana, and pull that automatic weapon and say hello to my little, right? So it was a secret ballot. Rick Scott pried away about 10 votes. McConnell gets reelected. And he told us that this would happen. He said, I have the votes, I will be elected. The only issue is whether we do it sooner or later. Now, I don't hate Mitch McConnell in the way that a lot of conservatives do, because McConnell held firm on the judges when Scalia died, and McConnell is in large part the reason why we got to overrule Roe v. Wade, and why Trump, probably one of the main reasons Trump got elected to replace Scalia, and then why we got that big victory in Dobbs. So I like McConnell, but the man is not a hardline, rock-ribbed conservative. Chuck Schumer now, the Senate Majority Leader again, is already talking about sitting down with McConnell and trying to kill off the MAGA movement.
I am going to say to the Republicans in the Senate, who are not the MAGA Republicans, stop letting them lead your party. Work with us to get things done. And I intend to sit down with Mitch McConnell and express that. And I think
you've been saying that. You've been asking for it. Go on.
Just quickly, when are you're sitting down with Mitch McConnell this week?
No, I intend, I've said this yesterday and the day before too, I intend to sit down with him and say, how can we should be working together. You're not going to get the extremists in your party to work with anybody, but the rest of us can work together and get them some real things done for the American people.
So thankfully, CNN clarified here and said, wait, when are you sitting down with Mitch McConnell? And he said, no, I intend to. So it's not like they have a meeting on the books. But I'm sure McConnell will be more than open to this overture from Schumer. McConnell hates the MAGA wing of the party. There's no question about that. The GOP establishment in Washington, D.C. hates the MAGA wing of the party. And this is why, just as we talk about healthy skepticism when we hear reports out of the war in Ukraine, we need healthy skepticism when we hear reports out of why the Republicans did or did not perform in the midterms. The people who hate Donald Trump and the MAGA movement are going to be much more inclined to blame the disappointing performance during the midterms on Trump and the MAGA movement. Almost to a man, the people who are blaming this thing on Trump didn't like Trump to begin with and don't like the MAGA movement. Now, if you talk to the MAGA movement people and the people who like Donald Trump, they're going to be much more inclined to blame the upending of our voting rules for what happened on Tuesday. They're going to say, yeah, we had a red wave in Florida, and maybe you can say that's only because of DeSantis, but how do you explain the red wave in Texas? How do you explain the red wave in Ohio? How do you explain the difference between Florida, Texas, and Ohio, and Arizona and Nevada? Well, the difference there is that Florida, Texas, and Ohio had tightened up their voting rules, and they didn't even tighten them up all that much, but they tightened them up a little bit after 2020. Arizona and Nevada did not. There were a whole lot of shenanigans that we saw in Arizona and Nevada, and surprise, surprise, the Republicans lose. So if you look at it from that vantage, which I think is much more persuasive, then the question is not over candidate quality or those crazy MAGA candidates. J.D. Vance was a crazy MAGA candidate. He won just fine. It wasn't just, it's Blake Masters and Kerry Lake. They're crazy MAGA candidates. There, it would seem that the more decisive factor was the election laws. The changing to the way that we conduct the elections, which give a huge benefit to the Democrats. The majority of votes coming in early as a result of things like ballot harvesting, right? That's obviously going to favor Democrats. Republicans don't have a ballot harvesting organization. We just don't have it at all. Democrats have had them for decades. Maybe that's really what's going on here. I just would urge caution, as when you read the news about Ukraine. Urge caution and maybe notice every now and again that the people who are so insistent, this is exactly what happened. Very often it's the people who got all their predictions wrong about the elections, but then the next day they're going to go on air and tell you this is exactly what happened, who have no epistemic humility whatsoever here. They're going to say that just coincidentally, what happened in my analysis of the elections, what happened is every single thing to confirm my own priors. Yeah, okay, I'm a little skeptical of that. I don't think so. I don't think that we should accept the establishment line. Maybe we don't even necessarily accept the MAGA line of argument at face value. Maybe we look into these things for ourselves and recognize it's a complex process. There's a lot at play, and there are a lot of forces who are fighting a long, simmering civil war that actually has nothing to do with the midterms and has been going on for a very, very long time. I will be hosting a panel right now in the member block of women, of good-looking, normal women from around the country to explain to me the appeal of Skeet Davidson. The rest of the show continues now. You don't want to miss it. If you're not a member, click the link in the description and join us.